Have you ever wondered why you people please, why you emotionally eat, and why you're either anxiously or avoidantly attached in your relationships? In today's video, I'm going to unravel all of these survival strategies and show you how they're all interconnected. So if you want to finally come out of survival mode and stop living through the lens of fear, lack, limitation, self-doubt, and insecurities, and you want to step back into your natural state of thriving, your authentic energy, where you're confident within who you are, you feel calm and connected and grounded within your body. So if that sounds like you, make sure to stick with me until the end of this video so that you don't miss the practical tips and steps that I'm going to share with you that you can start incorporating into your life right away for free. With all that being said, let's dive in. The first place you must begin is where you are right now. Awareness is your first step on this journey. So for me personally, back in the day, I was an emotional eater. I was a stress eater. I was a people pleaser. I was an avoidant attachment style kind of person. Okay, I don't identify with these labels because I believe the more you identify with a certain label, the more it can start to limit you. So I invite you to become aware of what your survival mechanisms are right now. They could be all three of these survival strategies: people pleasing, emotional eating, and being either anxiously or avoidantly attached. These could be all of what you're currently experiencing right now. But the truth is, they don't define who you are. Now, one thing I want to make really clear to you, and this is important for you to understand and grasp: you are not a bad person for resorting to these survival mechanisms, because that is literally all they are. They're survival mechanisms that you picked up when you were an innocent little child. When your mother or your father or your caregiver were not able to meet your needs back then, this is how you learn to survive. And this is still with you now in your adult life, even though it's not serving you. And so what I'm going to help you do right now is get to the root of where this all occurred, where this all started from, so that you can start to unravel it and step back into your authentic energy. So this is the next step in our journey, is to go back to your childhood, is to go back to the moment when this traumatic event occurred. And right now you might be thinking, well, Jake, I don't even remember my childhood, so it's hard for me to go back and think about this. And this is totally okay. You don't need to remember the specifics of your childhood. What is more important is getting clear on what occurred internally within you when this traumatic event occurred. And I'm going to explain and break this down for you right now. Understand that it is not about the trigger. It is not about the person. It is not about the experience or the event. What is far more important, what we want to focus on in this situation when you want to heal, we want to focus on the story that was created as a result of that experience. Let me explain. Imagine back to your childhood when you were an innocent little child and your mother may have not held you and given you that love when you were crying. Maybe your father yelled and got angry sometime. Maybe your father wasn't around, your father wasn't present. Now I want you to imagine your heart. And every time one of these traumatic experiences occurred back then when you were so vulnerable and innocent, there was a little hole that opened in your heart. There was like a little tear that happened within your heart. And because there's now a hole, there's now a tear in your heart, there's a void. And these survival mechanisms that you've picked up have been to fill that void. These survival mechanisms, the people pleasing, the emotional eating, they are a coping mechanism to fill that internal void, that lack of love and safety and connection that you felt back then when you were a child. So this is really important to understand. And this leads me to the next point. When you are doing any kind of healing or inner child work, you must meet yourself, your parents, the event, the experience, everything with kindness, with patience, with curiosity, and with compassion. This is really important because if you're stuck in the energy of shaming and blaming and focusing on who was wrong, this is going to lead to you disempowering yourself. But when you come to this place of acceptance and openness and curiosity and kindness and compassion, this opens you up to learning. This opens you up to love. This opens you up to truth. This is really powerful and really important. And when I first started on this journey, I didn't even really understand what compassion meant. And now the more that I've started to understand myself, the more compassion that I've developed for myself, now I understand that compassion is having empathy, feeling what that would feel like for someone, and letting go of the judgment, letting go of the need to blame and shame, and simply feeling. And this takes a level of being present in your body, being still. But this is a beautiful journey to be on. So now that you're becoming aware of the fact that you're not a bad person, these are literally survival strategies, coping mechanisms that you used to fill an internal void. Now you can start to notice how these are playing out in your day-to-day experiences. When someone does something that upsets you and you suppress that, you feel upset, you feel hurt. There is something within you that wants to communicate that, but you're afraid and you're scared to communicate that. And why is this? Because you're afraid to sever the connection. So what are you doing? You're suppressing your authenticity. You're suppressing your truth to maintain a level of attachment and connection. In effect, what you're doing is you're disconnecting from yourself to maintain a connection and an attachment to someone else. And I totally get this. I understand this because I have been there. You want to make others feel comfortable and happy, but in the process, you make yourself feel uncomfortable and unhappy. So you disconnect from yourself to avoid confrontation, to avoid hurting someone else or upsetting someone else or making someone else feel uncomfortable. But in the process, you make yourself feel deeply uncomfortable. So this is a journey, and later in this video, I'm going to share with you some practical ways to start unwinding and unraveling this so that you can start speaking your truth authentically and honestly, but not in a way that creates confrontation and discomfort, in a way that creates connection and love and understanding. So maybe I've lost you by now, and if I have, I'm sorry, but let's bring it back. Let's come back. So now that you're aware of the fact that these are survival mechanisms, they're coping mechanisms from your childhood, that's perfect. It is one piece of the puzzle to be aware of your childhood, to be aware of your trauma, to be aware of your survival strategies. But the next piece is to be aware of how they are playing out in your moment-to-moment experiences. And when you notice them playing out, when you notice part of yourself wanting to go back to your old limiting patterns, the people pleasing, the emotional eating, being avoidantly or anxiously attached, this is then an opportunity for you to find your center, for you to come back home to yourself, to breathe deeply, to breathe fully, and to remind yourself, hey, I don't actually have to act out of my limiting patterns from the past. The most beneficial thing that I can do for myself, for my family, for my partner, for my kids, for all of those people that really care about me and I care about them, is to express myself authentically, is to share my heart with them, is to be vulnerable, is to be honest, is to be open, because this invites them in. This brings me closer to myself, right? I'm talking about you here. I'm using my own terminology, but this brings you closer to yourself. The more honest you are with yourself, the more vulnerable you are with yourself and with another, the more connection is created, the more space for healing there is. This is transformational. This is subtle, yet this is incredibly powerful. You don't have to communicate every single thing that you're feeling in every single moment. I'm not suggesting that this is what you do. But what is important, I believe, is to start honoring yourself by allowing yourself to feel your feelings and to understand yourself and to notice what is coming up, and then to have the courage, if you feel called to do so, to share that with a safe person, whether that is your partner, whether that is your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, anyone. It could be your best friend. Having the courage to communicate your own experience with another is so incredibly powerful. And I've been a part of men's circles over the last couple of years. I've been a part of different conscious communities, living in community with people that I hadn't known for very long before actually living with them. So there's a lot that comes up when you're actually out there interacting with people and having the awareness within yourself to know what you're feeling, and then having the willingness and the courage to communicate that with other people. This brings you so much closer to yourself and to others, and I believe this accelerates your growth of healing and transformation. It allows you to be more confident within who you are. It allows you to trust yourself more. So with that being said, me coming out of this people pleaser energy, this survival mechanism, it's been a journey. And there's still moments where maybe I suppress my truth or I don't speak up because I want to keep the peace. However, that's not always the case. Sometimes I know which battles to pick. Sometimes I choose not to say anything at all because I actually believe that this particular person isn't even open to hearing that. So this is why it's important to use your own discernment and know how to pick your battles wisely, because there are people that will actually be receptive to what it is that you have to share, but there's other people that will be very closed off. And so that's why you must use your own discernment. Now that's the people-pleasing side of things. For me, emotional eating and overeating has been a vice and a mechanism for me in the past and can still sometimes be. So for example, right now I'm in the middle of a fast. I'm about 28 hours into a fast and I don't have a particular plan. I'm not saying I'm going to fast for 72 hours or 96 hours. I'm going to tune into my body and notice what my body needs right now. Right now, I don't feel like eating. I'll probably go for at least 48 hours and beyond. So right now, all I'm having is water and herbal teas. These are getting me by, and I actually feel really good. I have a little bit of a headache, but apart from that, I feel really good. And this, I believe, is one of the highest forms of self-love for my body. There is a saying that goes, starve the body and feed the soul. And your body, our bodies are incredibly intelligent. So after a period of time, I believe that it's about 24 hours, your body starts to go into ketosis. Your body essentially starts to self-clean and clear out all of the waste, remove the toxins. So for me in the past, I have overeaten and I've had an unhealthy relationship to food. And I've used food to fill an internal void because food has a very feminine element to it. It nurtures you, it nourishes you, it feels good. However, it can be detrimental if you don't have a healthy relationship to food and if you're consuming food to fill an internal void, which has been a pattern for me in the past. So for example, right now I'm doing this fast to honor my body. I'm doing this fast to reset my nervous system, to flush out my digestive system, and to give myself time and space to recalibrate, to tune back into my soul, to feel more at home within who I am. And this is the thing, there is actually a lot of freedom within something like this, because now that I've said I'm on a fast, I don't feel like I've got to go to the fridge or look in the pantry for a snack. I've just said, that's it. I'm going on a fast. I'm going to tune into my body. And when I feel like my body is really ready for food, I'm going to feed my body. And so that may be 24 to 48 hours from now. I'm not exactly sure. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you so that you can understand there are practical ways that you can start to overcome these survival mechanisms. And let me make it clear, I'm in no way suggesting that you go and do a fast right now. I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply using myself as an example to show you what I'm doing to unravel and grow beyond these patterns, these survival mechanisms. Now, the moment you've been waiting for, let's dive into some practical ways that you can start to unravel these survival mechanisms in real time. And this requires you to be present and to be aware of how you are operating moment to moment in your daily life. It's one thing to be aware of your past. It's one thing to be aware of your patterns, but it's another thing to be aware of how your patterns are playing out every single moment, and to be able to redirect your focus, your attention, your awareness to the real you, to the true, authentic you. That version of you that is willing to honor what you are feeling, to have a relationship to your body. And this has been a really interesting piece for me, to actually remember that my body is a really powerful teacher, and my body wants to work in harmony with me. So this is why being aware of your body, being aware of your emotions, being aware of your digestion is really powerful. It brings you closer to yourself. It helps you better understand yourself. Now that you're aware of all of what we've discussed, the next step is to be aware of how you are showing up in your daily interactions, because these are the greatest opportunities for healing, growth, and transformation. When you feel triggered, when you want to people please, when you want to go to the fridge, when you want to eat to fill that void, when in actual fact, what may be far more beneficial for you in that moment is to sit with the pain, is to sit with the discomfort, is to feel it, is to share that with a friend, is to share that with someone that you feel safe with, maybe to even write it down in a journal, rather than resorting to your old limiting patterns from the past. How can you redirect your focus to the true, authentic version of you? What does that version of you need? So this is why I believe it is important for you to start developing a relationship to your inner child. Understand that all of us human beings have an inner child that is living within us. Even though you may be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 right now, that little inner child is still living within you. And that inner child carries gold. That inner child has gifts, has wisdom. When was the last time you allowed yourself to dance and sing and play and experience joy? This is dancing with that inner child. This is embracing that inner child. But it's important to develop a relationship with your inner child before getting to that joy stage. Because understand that you likely have a wounded inner child right now. An inner child that back then, their needs were not met. You didn't get the support that you needed from your caregivers at that time. And that's not their fault. It is their fault, but it's not about blaming them. It's not about criticizing them, because your parents or your caregivers back then were doing the best that they could with what they had at the time, with the awareness that they had at the time. So now what you get to do, and this is a practice that I've been using myself for the last couple of years, it's a practice that I take my clients through as well, is you get to reparent yourself. Imagine right now within you, even if you want to close your eyes with me right now and do this exercise, there is a little child, a little girl, a little boy, a little child. There is a mother and a father living within you right now. So it is important to start becoming aware of your mother and your father, your internal mother and your internal father. It is important to become aware of your internal child, your inner child. So your internal father is that voice inside that is clear and confident and proud and decisive and willing to take action and willing to protect and willing to lead. That internal mother living within you is that voice, is that entity that is loving, that is nurturing, that is gentle, that is soft, that is kind, that will hold you through your pain. And that inner child that lives within you right now is that life giving, well, actually, I guess the mother is more life giving. But the way I see your inner child, the way I see my inner child, is full of life, full of zest, full of joy, no judgment, no doubt, just playful, expressive, authentic, unapologetic, innocent. This is your inner child. So I invite you to start becoming aware of your internal mother, your internal father, your internal inner child. And I invite you to start cultivating a relationship to your internal mother and father and your inner child. Now, if you had your eyes closed with me, I invite you to slowly, gently open up the eyes and come back to where you are. That wasn't really a meditation, and I actually didn't really plan for that at all. However, I feel like to visualize the internal mother, father, and child, it's better to close the eyes. It's better to go inwards. So this is why I believe it is so important to create space in your life, to create time, to reconnect, to connect to yourself, to understand yourself, to visualize the inner child living within you, to visualize your internal mother, your internal father. It is important to start reparenting yourself. Now, that practice that I just took you through is a visualization practice that you can use at any point throughout your day. If you feel triggered in the moment, this is an opportunity for you to put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, close your eyes, go inwards, breathe deeply, breathe in through your nose. Let it go out through your mouth. You can also incorporate that sigh just to fully let it all go. So when you're feeling triggered, I want you to close your eyes, one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, breathe deeply in through your nose, and then let it go out through the mouth. And as you exhale, I want you to extend your exhale. Let go of all of your air. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. Now, gently open up your eyes. If you had them closed, you can take your hand and your heart. You can take your hand away from your belly and your heart. Come back to the room, come back to your body. I want to remind you this is how simple it can be. To just notice in the moment when you're feeling triggered. To honor yourself by feeling what you need to feel. And notice if there is an aspect of you that wants to suppress your truth, that wants to not speak up, that wants to make yourself small because that is your old self, wanting to operate from your old survival mechanism of people pleasing. So when every part of you feels like contracting and withdrawing, disassociating and running away, this is an opportunity for you to breathe deeply, to honor yourself, and have the courage to speak up. Now, what I want to share with you right now is how to speak. When you speak and communicate with someone about how you are feeling, it is very important for you to own your experience. I am feeling anger. I am feeling frustrated. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling hurt. This is really important. Because rather than blaming or projecting onto someone and saying, I'm angry at you, you made me angry, I'm frustrated. Instead, when you go inwards and you own your experience, and you have the courage and the willingness to communicate this with someone that you care about. Even if it's not someone that you care about, even if it's just a work colleague or a boss or someone that you've just met, it is still important to own your experience. Because what this does is it invites someone in to see you. This requires you to be vulnerable and honest and authentic, but this actually creates connection. When you say to your partner, to your family member, to whoever it is, I am feeling upset, I'm feeling hurt by what you just said, this is then an opportunity for them to meet you with curiosity. I believe they're going to be far more receptive to this when you communicate your experience. Far more receptive than you shaming and blaming and complaining and projecting onto them. This is a subtle shift, yet this is really, really powerful. And of course, this is not going to work for everyone. Others will meet you at the level of awareness and the depth that they've met themselves. Understand that you communicating about your own internal experience, this could potentially open you up to someone shaming you or making fun of you. But this is a risk that I believe you must be willing to take, because when you don't communicate honestly and authentically and vulnerably, you are not honoring yourself. You're not honoring the other person as well, because you're faking it. And this is a subtle form of manipulation. Even though I know you are not manipulative, even though I know that you have good intentions by people pleasing, by you not honoring yourself and expressing authentically and truthfully, you are in a way living through the lens of fear. You're trying to control someone or something outside of yourself, and in a way that is manipulative, even though I know that that is not your intention. So that is my invitation and my challenge to you, to honor yourself by feeling what you need to feel, and by expressing this with someone that you care about, whoever is involved, in an honest and authentic way that actually creates connection and invites them in to see you in the way that I just taught you. The next part of this is when it comes to emotional eating. If you have a tendency to fill that internal void with food, or maybe it's through drugs or through alcohol or through any kind of substance, maybe it's scrolling and swiping through social media. If you're using these external things to fill an internal void and to distract yourself from feeling pain, this is not bad or wrong. Like I said earlier in this video, you're not a bad person. We all experience this to a certain degree as humans. But it is important for you to know in that moment that, hey, I'm distracting myself. I am avoiding this internal pain. It is important in these moments when you notice yourself wanting to go to the fridge and grab something to eat mindlessly. It's important to notice when you're mindlessly scrolling, not from a place of shaming and saying, oh, you're doing it again, but simply a place of observing and noticing what it is that you're trying to avoid in that situation. This is why compassion is really important. And there's an incredible therapist, Gabor Mate. If you haven't heard of him, go and check him out because he's got amazing podcasts. He's incredible. He speaks about compassionate inquiry. So meeting yourself with curiosity through the lens of compassion and kindness and curiosity, because this then gives you the space. It creates space between you mindlessly acting out of a limiting pattern from your past and this present moment you're in right now. It creates this space when you're aware. And then when you ask yourself that question, what is the pain that I'm trying to avoid right now? What is the void within that I'm trying to fill right now? And how can I love myself through this right now? So this is where the practice, like I just took you through before, the hand on the heart and the belly, breathing deeply, and understanding what this void is that you are trying to fill. This is where this kind of practice comes in. So next time you feel the urge, the impulse to distract yourself through eating, through social media, through porn, through drugs, through alcohol. Ask yourself, drop in with yourself, check in with yourself, and notice what you are trying to avoid. If you're either anxiously or avoidantly attached in your relationship, and it may be a little bit of both, it is possible to have elements of both. Just understand that this does not define who you are. I would even encourage and invite and challenge you to let go of the label, to stop identifying with these labels. I am an avoidant attachment. I am an anxious attachment. I am an emotional eater. I am a people pleaser. Release your grip. Release your attachment to these labels, because these can actually become the exact things that limit you. You can be so self-aware and so stuck because you're actually attached to this identity. You're actually attached to this old familiar pattern because there's a level of comfort and predictability there. This is why most people get stuck in the self-awareness trap, because us human beings are so attached to safety and predictability and comfort to the point where we'll attach and latch on to old limiting patterns because there's a level of predictability and comfort there, even though deep down we know this is not where we want to be. Your soul knows that you're not a people pleaser. Your soul knows that you're not an emotional eater. Your soul knows that you're not anxiously or avoidantly attached, because your soul is limitless. It's infinite. It knows that it doesn't need to be attached to anything or anyone, and that all of this physical and material stuff in this 3D realm is very temporary. And this is not to say that you don't care about people and anything in this 3D realm. No, it is the total opposite. It is to say what a gift it is that I have this body, that I have this heart. What a gift it is to be able to share this with others. What a gift it is to be able to connect with others and better understand them and their pain and their limitations and their patterns and their trauma. Coming back to this idea that you are an anxious or avoidant attachment, let it go. It's not who you are. It doesn't define you. And this is why I have a level of resistance to certain labels, because to define yourself is to limit yourself. So if you are either anxiously or avoidantly attached, it's really simple. You learned to suppress your authenticity to maintain attachment. Let me say that again. You learned as an innocent little child that didn't know any better back then, that to maintain your attachment and maintain your connection, you had to suppress your authenticity. The perfect example of this, and the example from my childhood, is that as a young boy, I was crying hysterically, and my mum instinctively wanted to come in and hold me and support me, but my dad put his foot against the door and wouldn't let her go in. And his thinking was, Jake will just cry it out and he will become independent. He won't need us anymore. And I can understand my dad's thinking. I don't hold this over his head. But I believe this was the very beginning of me creating a story and an idea that by me withholding, by me not expressing myself, I would never disturb the peace. And this is a way that I figured I could have my needs met, which is not true. It's not true. So with your anxious attachment style, you believe that you need to put out fires. You believe that you need to scramble and do whatever you can to maintain that level of attachment. And this is because you don't feel whole. You don't feel like you are enough. You haven't remembered yet that you are divine, unique, and perfect as you are. Imperfectly perfect. Perfectly imperfect. What a paradox. So whenever you feel anxiety about losing someone or something, what if you are actually losing yourself in the process of trying to maintain that relationship and that connection? And in effect, pushing them away in the process. You see, this is a classic example that I see playing out in relationships. Very often, it is the woman that is anxiously attached, and it is the man that is avoidantly attached. And of course I'm generalizing here, it's not always this way, but very often what will happen is the woman will be in fear that she's going to lose her man, and she will latch on even more and cling on even more. And the man becomes even more repelled by this because the man wants his freedom. The man feels as though he's compromising on his freedom to be in the relationship, and he becomes more avoidant. When in actual fact, at the core of it, I believe both the man and the woman want to feel loved, want to feel heard and seen and cared for. And so it's more about going inwards, noticing what your own pattern is, and being willing to do your own healing work. Less focused on your partner and how they should be showing up or their patterns, and more focused on your own patterns, more focused on how you want to show up in the relationship, because this is what you do have control over. This is what you do have power over. And this is not to say that you don't care about your partner or what they're going through or their patterns. No, this is to say that you are more focused on your own patterns because you have control over navigating through these and unraveling them. Now, on the other hand, if you're an avoidant attachment style, it is very likely that when you were an innocent little child, your mother wasn't able to give you the love that you needed in the moment. And so you learned to keep people at an arm's length. You learned to not let people in too close because this could open you up to being hurt. And so because of this, you decide that when someone triggers you or upsets you, it's bringing up those feelings from your childhood. So you shut down even more. You disassociate and you disconnect. So your piece of work, your opportunity for growth, is to keep your heart open. When every part of your body and your being wants to close down and shut down, how can you breathe deeply? How can you put your hand on your heart and your belly and feel what you're feeling? Acknowledge and honor what you're feeling. And again, like I communicated just earlier, own your experience. Let your partner know. Let whoever is there know what you are feeling. This requires courage. This requires vulnerability. This requires honesty with yourself. But this is incredibly powerful. The more closer you become to yourself, the more willingly and courageously you communicate and express your truth with the world. This is when you literally tap into this magnetic energy that is living within you. This will elevate your impact with your business. This will amplify the love and the connection and the intimacy within your relationship. This will bring you closer back home to yourself. And it's really subtle little shifts. But these subtle little shifts, I believe, have the biggest impact. So by now, I trust you can see how these are all intertwined and interconnected. And by getting to the truth of what occurred back then, and not only the truth of what occurred back then, but more importantly, understanding what that meant about you, what the internal story was that was created as a result of that trigger and that experience back then, and what the void was that was created within you back then. And now how in this present moment you are filling that void through people pleasing, through emotionally eating, through being anxiously and or avoidantly attached in your relationships. Any questions, any thoughts, share them down below. And if this has resonated deeply with you and you're like, hey, this is me, and you want to dive deeper, and you want someone in your corner to support you every step of the way through this journey, there are two ways that you can make that happen right now. Number one, if you're really invested in yourself and you're committed to your growth and you're interested in my private one-to-one mentorship, I invite you to book in a free call using the link in the description. And this will be an opportunity for us to just connect, get to know each other, And if I feel like I can actually support you on this journey, then we can look at potentially working together on a longer term basis. Option 2, on the other hand, if you're curious about this work, if this has resonated with you, you're not necessarily ready to fully dive all the way in, but you want to start healing. You want to start developing a relationship to yourself where you feel confident, you feel calm, and you feel connected to who you are. And you want to do this alongside a like-minded community, people that are on a similar journey to you. Option number 2, on the other hand, if you're new to your health and healing journey, if you're looking to improve yourself and become more confident, calm, and connected within who you are, then I invite you to join my private health and healing community using the link in the description. This is a really beautiful community. What you'll get access to on the inside is a private, supportive, like-minded community. People that are literally on a similar path to you, that are looking to grow and heal and improve themselves. You'll also get access to exclusive courses like Healing Your Inner Child, the Nervous System Reset, a 5-week holistic health program that teaches you how to eat, train, move, and sleep for your unique body type to heal and strengthen your body, your mind, and your soul. There's going to be live weekly group coaching calls led by me. There's going to be live weekly guided breathwork practices, and there is so much more. So if you feel called to join, you can join now using the link in the description, and I will see you on the inside. As always, any questions, any comments, leave them down below, and make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel, because I'm dropping videos like this every single week. Have an amazing day, and thank you for watching.